On the doorstep of one of Australia's most treasured natural wonders, a vast wasteland site, where billions are about to be spent on a high-stakes operation to try to transform this cracked moonscape, 500 hectares wide, into this.
Not leaving it as waste, turning it back into land that can be used.
3 light vehicles heading north on Pit 3 Perimeter Road.
But in the far north, where nothing ever comes easy or cheap, a precarious balancing act is about to play out.
Well, it's complexity, it's highly regulated, it's in Kakadu National Park, it's uranium.
On this old mining pit, 30,000 native seeds have already been sown by hand. By 2030, it's hoped that will reach more than 1 million, as a scarred land embarks on its long journey to being healed once more.
The consequences of not getting it right are, they're sort of cataclysmic, really.
Here on the edge of World Heritage listed Kakadu National Park, in the Northern Territory's top end, lies the defunct uranium mine called Ranger. Its great holes in the earth are surrounded by ancient escarpment country and towering eucalypts.
Tourists are shocked when they get in a plane and fly out of the Jabiru airstrip and then realise that immediately beside it there is this great massive industrial development. It is a significant scar on the cultural landscape, the living cultural landscape that is Kakadu National Park.
Ranger was born amid controversy after the Commonwealth agreed to allow the digging to go ahead against the wishes of the land's traditional custodians.
Community groups have expressed strong opposition to uranium mining.
It was the spark for anti-uranium and pro-land rights rallies across the country and caused grief for Kakadu's Aboriginal elders.
They were worried that most of our native animals were getting poisoned by those mines, and traditional owners were a bit worried.
As uranium exports skyrocketed, Ranger's economic windfall also bankrolled Aboriginal royalty payments for clan groups across the territory.
It was the thing that gave significant funding to other land councils throughout the territory. So in a sense, that was a success, but it was at the cost of the Mirarr people's country and their culture being hammered out here.
This could be the largest concentration of uranium ore anywhere in the Western world.
Once a powerhouse of Australia's economy, Ranger is now mainly rubble, abandoned buildings and empty pits. The machines fell quiet when the mine's 4-decade lifespan finally ground to an end last year. Now, one of the biggest, most sensitive and expensive mine cleanups in the nation's history is unfolding.
We get the opportunity to bring the land back to a standard that could be incorporated into the Kakadu National Park if that's what the traditional owners want.
We're aiming to be on about 25 years after our planting to be on a solid trajectory to forming a good ecosystem. But the final ecosystem, with all the different animals and plants coming back, could take a bit longer than that.
431.
Energy Resources of Australia, whose main shareholder is mining giant Rio Tinto, has pledged to find the estimated $2.2 billion needed to rehabilitate Ranger properly, despite shifting timeframes and doubts about its bottom line. The company has already seen its budget blow out by over $1 billion more than originally projected, and it won't commit to a completion date other than to say it could drag on past the end of the decade.
The rehabilitation of the Ranger mine in Australia's biggest national park upstream of Aboriginal communities in highly sensitive internationally listed wetlands means that they need to do the best job. It shouldn't be constrained by any arbitrary timelines or by cost.
Rangers' buildings and machinery are set to be broken down and then buried in the pits, a decision the company pledges is safe, but one scientists say they'll be monitoring closely.
I think the biggest risk relates to the 65 million tonnes of uranium tailings that's been stored in the pits. Compared to that, the former machinery and mill is actually quite a small amount of material.
The man now overseeing Rangers rehab is an unlikely mining company chief executive, a former Indigenous land rights protester, who as a kid appeared in the film clip to a midnight oil anthem.
I grew up marching the streets for land rights and kind of justice.
Brad Welsh acknowledges the irony. He's now running the operation that once took land rights away from First Australians. But the Moru Worry man says he believes decades later his company's now helping to restore that dignity and is working in lockstep with traditional owners on the rehab.
If you think about the journey that we've been on, we built Ranger kind of against the wishes and against the consent of the traditional owners. We entered into a long-term care and maintenance agreement where we gave the traditional owners the right of our future decisions. And I mean, we're the first company that's appointed an Indigenous CEO to, deliver world-class rehabilitation that is not occurring anywhere else.
Elders living downstream from Ranger are cautiously optimistic that ERA's promises are honest.
Good, happy. And man bom happy and ang same like no muldun derin. And an get look down here and couldn't dal my so come back one.
But you're not going to be same like you're
yeah, not same.
However convincing ERA's pledges may be, the traditional owners say many risks still remain.
Spread, it'll get spread. That was sedimenting. Sometimes the rains come and then.
May Nango is among those involved in the rehab. She was even bussed out to help plant some of the first sprouts on Pit 1.
So we got them to plant the first trees here, really. And I think they put in about 80 trees that day and wanted to keep going. They were just so happy with it.
For Jabiru gardener Peter Christopherson, who with his daughter has been heading the regrowth efforts, it was a moment like no other. After witnessing the heartbreak caused by the mine to his people, including his own mother, it marked a full circle and a chance to repair.
I guess it's a healing for everybody, but it had to be for them first.
Any proof that ERA's vision will ever come to fruition remains to be seen, but as the saplings take root and as animals, birds, insects, even small mammals start coming back to the site, the first glimmers of the old way of life are returning.
All the birds, like this sort of thing you can hear.
If everything goes as planned with the rehabilitation, there's all hope that the once toxic pits of Ranger may eventually be incorporated here into the boundaries of surrounding Kakadu National Park and protected by law from unwanted development for good. Uranium mines have long been a part of the park's landscape, but traditional owners say they want the ceasing of Ranger to mark a full stop for mining in Kakadu.
It had its day. Yeah, we just let it be Kakadu naturally.
But no more mining was finished. We like our country back.
From the tiny shoots she's helped plant on Pit 1, Delise Christopherson imagines the possibility out here, one day, of a fertile forest.
Seeing people come back here once the mine is shut down and kind of get a glimpse of what it used to be like back in the old days before the mine came here. It'll be something magical, I reckon.
That's it.
Very good.
The careful first steps towards a new chapter in Australia's fragile north.